What moment made you believe in fate? I met Joseph in college at a party when he told me I looked familiar. That happens to me sometimes because when I was a kid I did some acting. Nothing major at all, just bit parts in TV mostly, but I was on one of those cheesy commercials that's like imminently quotable that a lot of people remember from their childhood, so people recognize me from that sometimes. So I asked him if he'd seen it, but it turns out he lived abroad during that commercial's heyday, so he totally missed that little cultural touchstone. He couldn't figure out where he knew me from, but every so often he'd mention it and that it was driving him crazy. Ah well, clearly not too crazy, since he dated me anyway. Our relationship was really nice and peaceful right from the start. We were both coming from relationships that were just tumultuous and stressful and awful. So honestly, even just at that point, something about it felt kind of meant to be. The one sad part of it all was that Joseph's mom had recently passed away a few months before we met, and he was really struggling with that. Her death was really sudden, and they'd been really close. She had still been living overseas, and the next time he was supposed to see her was at Christmas. That made all the Christmas music and spam emails and holiday lights hit him hard, especially because his mom loved Christmas. This would be the first one ever that he spent without her, and he and I were doing so well, and whenever we had a really great moment, he'd have this bit of sadness and tell me how much it sucked that his mom would never get to meet me. Near the beginning of December, he wanted to watch his mom's favorite Christmas movie. He warned me it was terrible, but his mom always made them watch it every year, so he wanted to show it to me. The title sounded familiar to me, but once he put it on, I didn't recognize anything from it. It was just some low-budget Lifetime-style movie. I was kind of zoning out during it, I admit. Joseph wasn't lying. It was not good. When all of a sudden he stopped and grabbed the remote to pause it and said, "Katie, is that you?" And friends, it was. Just a background extra in a classroom scene. No lines or anything. I'd done a bunch of background roles in crappy movies like this one when I was about 7, right before I quit acting, and of course I didn't remember all of them, and I'd probably never even seen the actual movie. But there I was. Finally, we knew why Joseph had recognized me. He'd seen me pretending to write in a notebook in the background of a movie he'd watched every single year for his entire life. He started to tear up when he realized that even though he'd never gotten to introduce me to his mom, she'd still seen me, once a year, every year, on her favorite holiday. Fate is a big word, but this felt really big.